Hello and welcome back to the 12 Man podcast. A big show in store tonight. We've got Owen Kelly in, desperate to get on. They chat about Saturday's game, and that's exactly where we're going to start. We're going to look at all them big decisions, review the game, look at some of the other big talking points of the weekend. But there really is only one place to start, and it is at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, where Spurs left it late. They won 2 goals, they won. It's safe to say that not too many people are talking about the football. They're talking more about the decisions in the game. And I mean, Owen, before we get into it, I mean, how are you feeling? It's been 48 hours or so since the game. Are you feeling any better?
Nope, I am not. I'm absolutely
Still,
fuming.
still unhappy.
I'm fuming. It's
I
as
mean,
I said to
what,
you, as I
what,
said to you on Saturday. Like it's not just a Liverpool thing. It's the league as a whole is getting dragged down by these awful officials.
I mean, where do we even start? I suppose only we'll try and do it in chronological order. Um, I mean, but before we'll not actually do it in chronological order because there's one big talking point. The first red card actually came first, but we'll come to that. But we'll start off with a big talking point, and that was the offside goal with Diaz. I mean, Owen, how did they come to this decision? I mean, Diaz looked onside in live play. You know, then we see a replay of it, and they don't check it for very long. It's a very quick check. Once we see a few more replays, it's very obvious he's onside. Now we've seen today that Liverpool have demanded that they want to hear the audio of the referee and the VAR speaking. I'm also hearing in the last few minutes that the audio may be even made available as early as tonight on the Monday Night Football on Sky Sports. Now that is unconfirmed, but it is being reported by TalkSport on Twitter, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But I mean, Owen, what was your thoughts on this whole situation? I mean, um, before we get into Liverpool's sort of statement, how did they get this so badly wrong?
I like I've been stewing on it for 2 days now, and I can't I can't think of a reason why. I actually messaged you at halftime, and I when you see it and you think it's offside, but then I remembered and then I messaged you. Where the hell was the lines for the Diaz goal? Like where? And then you hear all the excuses. All the goal they thought the goal was given, and that's why they said check complete. It's just a whole farce, and in my opinion, now that they should just scrap VAR. Like, because it's causing more handlings than it's worth, and it's ruining the viewing experience for fans. And this was the biggest game of the weekend, and it was just nobody's talking about the result. Everyone's talking about the complete. I'll use a PG word here, but complete mess up of the officials on Saturday, and it ruined the game.
I agree. I mean, even Spurs fans, I mean, of course we were happy we won it, but it wasn't the
Yeah,
way we wanted. They wanted. There was a lot of controversy in the game, and what we spoke about it on Thursday night's podcast, me and the lads, and we says that Spurs have had probably some bad luck in this fixture, but they definitely had the footballing gods looking down on them on Saturday. I mean, these are
yeah,
professional referees, Owen, right? Who get paid a lot of money. I mean, Howard Webb's come on, they try and change the sort of. There's a lot of mistakes happening under the previous regime under Mike Riley. Webb's come on after doing really good in America, and so far that hasn't transferred to England. I mean, we're still seeing a lot of decisions being made wrong. I mean, the subjective decisions always cause a lot of controversy. But I mean, this was a factual decision. This was
yeah.
offside, onside, and wasn't enough to say that it was one of them ones where it was a toenail or an armpit. It was at least
No,
a yard.
it was
So
clearly
I mean,
onside.
where do you think it started to go wrong? You know, um, do you think they didn't take enough time? Do you think that the VAR lost concentration? Do you think the linesman's flag was maybe because it did look like Diaz was running away to sell, but then the flag went up quite lit. Do you think
Yeah.
it was a combination of all that happening? From
Well,
start to
it
finish,
was
the process wasn't done correctly.
well. First of all, when it was given offside, it was decided upon too quick for me that it was offside, and and then it was just the whole process of it felt weird. Gary Neville himself said on Saturday that it just felt strange that it was over and done with so quick. I saw the linesman flag go up, so I was thinking, right, he's offside here, but it'll get checked. And then when they were showing the replay, I was expecting to see either the red line for offside or the green line for onside. when neither of them came up, I was really confused about how we weren't able to see the lines. And as for the officials losing concentration, that can't be an excuse. They have to be 100% focused on the job that they're doing at the time. And I've seen the report saying they were over in Dubai or something like 48 hours before.
They were
And
in the Middle East. The same VAR team were in the Middle East, and it was sanctioned by Hard Web. Do you think again that's poor management? Not to say that
of course it is.
it only becomes big news now because of what's happened. But I
Yeah.
mean, surely there was better. It's one of them ones where they could have avoided this, where there had to be other people that was fresher, and maybe that play a part because maybe they were jet lagged. But I think that
Especially because
excuse is
it's just a
very. I
big
think
game
that
too.
excuse. Exactly, and I think that excuse is very difficult to make though because it was so
Yeah.
obvious. I mean, and then you get to the point where if they have made the mistake, right? Surely as Spurs are respotting for the free kick,
They
somebody
said
says the
they said
referee, stop.
they
We need to
said they
stop this
couldn't
because
because Spurs took the free kick.
well, I'd have to
Yeah.
watch it back. Unless Spurs got it going very quickly with the VAR wasn't able to get into contact with the referee. Literally within seconds they say, "Look, we made a mistake here. We thought the goal," and then according to the rules, once the game's restarted, they can't do anything. Do you think that's something now that needs to be looked at? Where the for as poor as the VAR's done there, that the rules isn't helping them. That the fact that surely that rule needs amended now, where they can go back, and
Look,
stop because I think everyone, even Spurs fans, if it had been stopped maybe 30 seconds later and they replayed it on the big screen of what actually happened, I don't think Spurs fans would have complained too much about it because it was the right decision. So, I mean, as the rules, we've seen it with handball, we've seen it with offsides, we've seen it with the clear and obvious for penalties, subjective ones. Do you think of the rules hampering these referees as well?
they can be, but they're just they're just not good at their jobs. Like it's simple. It's not even, as I said to you, it's not even a Liverpool thing. There was a thing yesterday in the Nottingham Forest Brentford game that was could have been given as a penalty, probably should have been given as a penalty, that wasn't given. The goals were a bit dodgy. It's every week. Every week we're coming on. We're hearing like Sky Sports talking about VAR. We're Talk Sport talking about VAR. It's just it's just getting ridiculous.
Kevin saying topical Spurs getting all the decisions. I mean,
I
see,
don't
you put
even
it on
think
the.
it's I don't even think it's a sports thing.
I think what you said at the start of the show was pretty nailed on. I think that we've seen so many poor decisions this season that every team's getting the run of the ball some games and ours is going against them. I mean, if you look at Spurs' games this year, away to Brentford first game of the season, a penalty was given by the VAR, which was very soft. I've seen
Yeah,
more like the one that Brentford didn't get yesterday was more of a penalty, and that wasn't given. I
but
mean,
then
and
they're
then
able
we
to
look at the
stop games for penalty decisions. So why can't they do it for offsides?
Mm. Well, you look at the Arsenal game as well. The handball by the letter of the law, probably a penalty, but you could say maybe Spurs were a wee bit unlucky there as well. And I
Yeah,
think where we've been unlucky in certain games, we got our luck back yesterday. We've seen with United, they were very lucky they get away with the Onana penalty incident where Wolves should have had a penalty the week
it
after they go
was
and play Spurs
it
and
was the same
possibly Romero
referee too.
exactly and against Spurs Romero handball probably should have been a penalty for United. So I
Yeah,
think every team is getting good sorry, say good decisions. They're getting good runs of the ball one week with VAR, and then maybe the week or two later it's going against them. And I think
yeah.
that's the main takeaway from it all. One, as you said, that it's just not good enough, is it? Because we're seeing,
No,
it's great for Spurs fans that are laughing, joking, and celebrating the one. But
of
what
course.
happens
Like,
against Luton? What happens
mm,
against Luton if it goes the other way? Then Spurs fans are going to be feeling hard done by.
it's
So
it's not even that. It's like the punishments are good enough. Oh, you're taking off this game for a week and then you're back on as if nothing. They need to be fined or put down to the National League or something. Like a 1 week punishment isn't going to change how good a referee is, in my personal opinion.
I mean, I seen Klopp after the game. He says that he wasn't going to say too much more because it's literally killing him. His bank balance is getting absolutely hammered. I think that's something that needs to be looked at with a ret. As you said, as a 1 week punishment, fair enough. What do you think would be a fair punishment for the VAR, Darren England? What should be his punishment for the decision on Saturday?
He shouldn't be refereeing the Premier League game again for a good while, in my opinion, until he learns.
Yeah. And for you as a Liverpool fan, are you buying that? That even though they possibly shouldn't have been put in to the game, as that an excuse that they were away 48 hours before in another country?
No, no matter what, you have to be it's like any job. If you were away working somewhere and then you went on another job and you didn't do it right, they're going to just say, right, get out. Like, you have to concentrate on that task because you're doing it at that time, no matter where you were 48 hours before.
Yeah. I mean, there was other decisions in the game, and we will come on to them. But where are you at with Howard Webb? I mean, he's got a lot of support from pundits, players. They're saying that he's being more transparent. He's releasing audios. We may well see the audio for the game very, very soon on Saturday. I mean,
That'll be very
and
interesting.
he's very, very quickly to put his hand. He gets into contact very, very quickly with the clubs. Very sorry about that. Do you think his position needs to be looked at if this isn't improving? Because we can't have this continuing, can we? Week in, week out. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, the referees are the ones making the decisions, but he's the manager. It's almost like when a team's not performing, they don't sack the players, do
The
they? They
manager
sack the
gets
manager
sacked
that's
now.
doing it. So, where do you think? How much responsibility does Howard Webb have to shoulder this?
Is a lot of it, but I just think the whole structure of referees needs looked at. I don't think there should be a PGMOL. I think it should be independent regulating the referees and just it seems to be they're too close. They're all mates. They're all friends. Like, and Howard Webb, I never really liked him as a referee myself. So for him to be in charge of the referees now, it just doesn't sit right with me. And he did great work in America, fair enough. But American football, the European football is a completely different ballgame.
I was listening to Ref Watch this morning. Stephen
Uh,
Warnock was on with Stu Smith and the
Gallagher.
presenter Rob Wooden, I think it is, and Dermot Gallagher. They be on every Monday, and it was obviously an extended show this week because of all the decisions. It wasn't just at the Spurs game, as you said. Brentford felt very hard done by as well. Um, I mean,
United probably should have had a penalty.
United possibly could have had a penalty. There was so much happening. But Stephen Warnock says that there was an incident in America where Howard Webb ordered a game to be
I seen
replayed.
that. I seen
Do
that.
you think there's any possibility? I mean, we've seen Liverpool statement, and we're going to come on to it in a couple of months' time. But do you think is there any possibility that could happen, or do you
Nah.
think that it would open up like a can of worms because they've apologized for certain situations already and nothing's been done about it? So, what do
They
you think? What do you think should be done now moving forward?
in terms of this game in particular, or just anything in general.
Well, this for this game in general.
There's, I don't think it'll be replayed because that'll, as you say, that'll open a whole can of worms. But I think Liverpool's statement was very interesting. The way they said sporting integrity was undermined, and we're going to explore all the options. So what I read into that is we're going to take them to court somehow, but I don't know what. And
I
then
mean, Kieran saying here Saturday was a panic goal. This human error crap doesn't wash with me. Human error happened by the on-field team. This man was sleeping in Stockley Park and should be punished big time. I'm still fuming. And I mean, I have to
I agree with
sympathise with
you.
Liverpool fans because if it was the other way around, I would be feeling the same. I think a lot of Liverpool fans have been getting a lot of stick and saying that they're going over the top. But I mean, this was a big game. Liverpool could. This was a chance to go top of the league. Man
Like,
City had just lost.
I
There was
was
a
talking
few
about
feel
this.
good factor around Liverpool, wasn't there, before this game?
I was talking about this with a friend. If if we end up losing the league by a point, just say, like, we'll be really human.
Yeah.
If
I
you
mean, Callum's
like,
saying here that independent regulation would improve the standards as currently the refs know a 1 week suspension is the most they're getting.
I
That,
agree.
I mean, a 1 week suspension doesn't really cut it because if you're just straight back on a week later, I mean, I'm not sure that's, it's not working, is it? Because we're
Look,
still seeing the same decisions being made that are wrong.
if you look at footballers, if they get red cards, they get 3 game bans. Some of them get 10 game bans. Why is it not the same for referees? Why are they getting privileges?
I mean, you touched on the statement there. As you said, Liverpool are going to explore every avenue. They, basically do what they can. That tells me that this is going to run quite a bit. They're not just accepting. No, whereas we've seen other clubs have started accepted the apology and moved on. I think the difference with this one is it was a factual mistake.
I
Even
wasn't.
the only other factual I think one we had was the Arsenal Brentford last year was an offside, but it was
Yeah,
quite
I didn't.
difficult to spot. Yes, a professional should see it. as Gary Neville said on Sky, this was a clear and obvious. There was no one. There was only two players in question. It wasn't enough to say it was a crowded penalty area. It was,
It was
it was just
Romero, wasn't it? Dia?
yeah, it was just inside the Spurs half. I
Yeah.
mean, it was very easy to spot. So I think
Like
maybe this is why it's a bit more serious. But what do you think Liverpool in the end will achieve by this statement? Because I think Gary Neville says he felt sorry for them, but he actually tweeted today that he thinks the statement's over the top. Well, where do you stand on it?
I don't think it's over the top. Gary Neville says, "I they apologise. What more do you want?" But they're apologising every week and nothing's getting done. So as for Liverpool as a club,
I'm hearing that they're waiting on this audio. They make their next move. So suppose that maybe Liverpool are kind of saying what Meets is saying. They're not buying the whole we made a mistake with because
yeah,
if they're accepting what's being said, they wouldn't really be too fussed on hearing the audio.
mm,
I think yes, you might hear a bit more, but I think that tells me Liverpool aren't buying it. They think that maybe there's a bit more, something a bit more sinister in there. That
yeah.
maybe the lines weren't checked properly. Maybe
Well,
that they didn't take enough time, and it was just a more of incompetency than it was a mistake. So
yeah.
I mean, it will be interesting to hear this audio. I'm really fascinated. I mean, I was actually on my way home from work and I was listening to the previous ones that were out a few weeks ago just to kind of get a feel for what we're going to see. But
This one's going to be 100% different because of what happened. Someone tell
Gallon
the
says
world
someone tell the Glazers to release an apology and Neville will back off.
exactly like people are saying all Liverpool fans crying as usual, but if as we say, if it happens to Spurs against Luton, and it will happen again to some team. It will. It's just the referees aren't good enough. The VAR is not good enough. Like, oh, I don't know if this has been the most animated I've been in one of these podcasts. I am fuming.
Sometimes when you lose a game and you lose a game, you can take your oil a wee bit and you say we weren't good enough, need to improve. But when Liverpool were probably the better team, considering the
No,
circumstances, I think Spurs weren't at their best. You could see the players at Spurs were carrying injuries. You could see
no.
Son was not himself. Madison looked like he was carrying something. He come off. Basuma in the end ran out of steam. I think Spurs were probably there for attacking. Even 11v10, Liverpool looked
I,
very, very
I
dangerous in
said
the
to you,
counter attack.
I said to you, if we had stayed with 10, we would have at least got a point.
And I mean,
Because it looked like Spurs were running out of ideas
I
until
think
they got
Liverpool fans
them.
are their keyboard warriors. And I think because Kieran's going again here, he says another good point is it was the only game on at the time, so everyone in Stockley Park, all their attention should have been on the one game.
Yep.
It's not as if there was 10 games on at one time. And again, yeah, it shows you that you know.
So it
Do you
will be
think
interesting.
it was laziness? Maybe they just weren't thinking properly. And
Yeah.
it doesn't show a lot of care towards the game, is it? They've got
No.
a duty of care to try and make sure that things are fair. How can they? The
All
officials are
cheering.
all about. They're very quick to say about stamping out disrespect in the game, but they're not
Yeah.
really respecting the fans, the players. Managers are losing jobs by
Allison
not
put
doing
out a
their jobs
statement.
properly.
Allison put out a statement after the game and said footballers feel like prisoners because we can't open our mouths without getting fined or getting banned. I was listening. I don't know if you've seen it. I was listening to match of the day after, and Alan Shearer said, "What's the point in the assistant VAR if he can't do anything?"
Exactly.
It's,
I mean, last part on this offside before we move on to the horror incidents. I mean, there's more to get through. But do you think this is the straw that sort of breaks the camel's back in terms of? I've seen a lot of people say it now. You can start questioning all our onsides that were tight. Has all trust gone now with VAR? I mean, a lot of people have accepted the subjective ones. You don't really get them sometimes. But the fact we were told was the VAR's decision on offsides is factual. As all
uh,
trust, do you think as all trust now gone? Not just by Liverpool fans, but fans in general.
no, 100%. It's going like I like the way they do VAR in the Champions League where it's automated. I don't know why they didn't bring that into the Premier League.
I think Meats is looking to know what he wants them up, their blood alcohol up to see what was in
I
their
don't.
system.
I don't think they would have been on a session the UAE. I think that would have been frowned upon. But
I
no,
mean, let's move on to the red cards because a lot of controversy about these as well. I mean, first of all, the first red card, Jones, it goes on the Basuma.
we're appealing that
He's slightly lit. His
as
leg buckles as he goes on, and he just goes slightly over the top of the ball and catches Basuma. I think it's one of them ones that looks worse when you watch it back. But I mean,
Again, the
did the
referees
VAR
should
need
have
to step on
stolen
here? Did the VAR step on? Did he need to step on first? And then when he does step on, has he manipulated the situation? Has he manipulated the referee into thinking something's happened that's not? Because when the referee goes to the screen, he doesn't actually see a video of the challenge. He just sees a
well,
freeze frame
it's
of
like
the
a
point
still
of
image of
contact.
the.
So, I mean, do you think that first of all, do you think the referee needed to step on? Do you think a yellow card would have been fair? Was it a clear and obvious error? And then once he goes to the screen, surely he has to see the full incident in at
Yeah,
full speed. Then it's slow play, then it's slowed down, and then maybe a freeze frame, not just a one image.
yeah. Well, I'll ask you as a Spurs fan, like if that had have ended up being a yellow card, like you wouldn't have complained, would you?
Well, that's what I says. I think that it wasn't a clear and obvious error. Like they go by this clear and
I
obvious
think
error, so that's what I'm trying to go by. So I didn't see enough on it to overturn it. I think it's one of them ones. If a red had been given by the referee, same
they
again, you probably
wouldn't.
couldn't argue it. But the fact
Uh,
that it was given a yellow, and you can see Jones, he's not going Andy hurt Basuma. He's
no,
slightly lit, and you can see it in his reaction.
he slipped, I think, as well.
Basuma plays it well. He
Uh,
probably is doing what if it had been all around. Jones probably does the same. Obviously, you want to try and gain an
100%.
advantage, but are you surprised the referee stepped? Are you surprised? Sorry, are you surprised the VAR stepped on a situation like that?
I'm not surprised that they stepped on. I'm surprised that they didn't get a full view of the incident when they went to the screen. Because as you say, it was literally a still image of the worst point of contact. So as soon as he went over to the screen and saw that, I knew Jones was a goner.
When I was listening to Ref Watch, Steve Mornock asked Dermot Gallagher about that, and he says the reason that was shown was to establish the referee where the point of contact was, and once it is above the ankle, and he has come on with his studs planted, and the player's foot's on the ground, it's always going to be a red card. So it's one of them ones where maybe by the laws it was correct, but I
Well,
think
we've
for anyone
appealed
that's
it
played
anyway.
the game, if you look at all the ex pros and even some
Yeah.
of them with no allegiance to Liverpool, Gary Neville, a United man, says he thinks it's harsh.
Yeah.
So do you think they got that one wrong?
Uh, I do. And Liverpool obviously do think they got it wrong because we've appealed it today.
How successful do you think that appeal will be?
I actually don't know because I don't think the FA and Liverpool are on the best of terms at the minute, as you can probably tell.
Well, I've also heard that they're going to be fined £25,000 because they've had six
Mm.
players or more booked. That's a rule, and we're also hearing that McAllister's being investigated for his comments about Simon Hooper, where he says that Spurs had 12 men with the referee.
I
So
seen
again,
that.
that's one where now Liverpool could lose Jones and McAllister. Now McAllister probably shouldn't be running his mouth off, but you can see why in the heat of the moment. Surely they
They,
have to
they,
take on
they
the.
have to. That's what I was going to say. They have to take that into consideration, and I don't think they'll ban McAllister. I think they'll just fine him.
If he is banned and Jones is banned, would you be worried going on to that Brighton game next week?
Uh, no, I think we have enough. I think we'll. I think we have enough, but I can't. I
Martin
can't
seems to
see.
think it won't be overturned. He's a Liverpool fan. He doesn't think it
Nearly,
will. No.
like I can't see it being overturned, but I can't see if McAllister is sorry, if McAllister doesn't get banned, then I think we have enough. We have enough options. But if he does get banned, then uh, well, we have Gravenberch and Harvey Elliott and Endo, so that would be tough. Like, but I don't know. It's just it sort of feels like it sort of feels to me as a Liverpool fan that Liverpool sort of have a siege mentality against the FA at the minute. But there always has been that thing with Liverpool and the FA. There always has been conspiracies that the FA don't like Liverpool, but the proof's in the pudding for me. They always put us in half 12 kickoffs after international breaks, and we have players. We as a lot of teams do, but we have players traveling all over the world. So there has to be something in it for me.
Said Liverpool fans are not happy with FA at the minute. I mean, the
Mm.
second red card then is very, very quick. The two yellow cards. The first one, Jota, don't think he can do much about it. And you doggy, if you actually see, he makes the
He
contact
kept
with
his
Jota,
lip.
and then he clubs. Jota's knee and his boot collide, but more from Udogi. It clubs
Yeah,
the back, and then he goes another couple of steps, and then clubs himself and goes down. Referee gives a yellow card. I mean, it is difficult in live
yeah.
play. Can you, even though it's wrong to give the yellow card, I think that is one where it's difficult in full play at
He,
live speed because you can see McAllister coming across, I think that's just been highlighted again because the referee and the VAR said such a poor game. But I think that as one where I ref there Saturday and Sunday up in St Joe's, and of
Yes.
course there's going to be a couple of decisions here and there you don't get right, but I think that is one live play where it is very difficult for the official to see what's actually happened. Then
Yeah.
this, and if you actually look at it, I think Gary Neville says Jota made a foul just before that, where he
He, yeah.
possibly could have been booked and he wasn't. And then the second one, I mean, it's a clear yellow card. It's a ridiculous tackle they make for
You can't
someone
do
that's
that when
just
you're on a
been
yellow
booked.
card.
So, do you think Jota can have many excuses in the end? Because even with a second yellow card, he knows he's on a yellow card. He can't really make that tackle. He's got no chance of getting the ball. Do you think that was what born into frustration, how the game was going, and he just
I
lost
was
his head?
just gonna, I was just gonna say that like they get as soon as Jones was sent off and Diaz was wrongly ruled, I think all sense went out the window in that game, and I just think, as you say, I just think Jota was frustrated and in the heat of the moment he made a rash decision that
You know
sent
what? It
us.
was a critical point in the game because Spurs started that second half really well, but they
Yeah,
faded. They really did fade. I mean, Alisson made a couple of big saves to start, but he didn't really have much to do after that.
yeah,
And you could see Liverpool were like dangerous in the attack a couple of times. There was one where was Salah was involved? Was it Van de
well,
Ven? And the referee gave a foul and that looked quite soft, but you could
yeah.
see there was opportunities in the break. Nunez was about to come on, and then Jota makes
And then
that
Jota
tackle,
goes.
and Nunez doesn't come on. So do you think the game was still there for Liverpool at that point, and Nunez coming on? I mean, Van de Ven, as we've seen on Saturday, is very, very quick, but Udogie would have given, or sorry, Nunez would have given more of a risk. So the game was there for you.
Oh, I've said to you a few times, like I think if Jota had stayed on the pitch, we would have went on to win the game. I just I just felt that way because of the way the game was going. And there's another decision I was a bit confused about. I think we quite possibly could have had a penalty as well. We've had the Van Gomez. That one
Somebody
wrestled.
mentioned that, but again, I think so much had happened that some stuff was missed.
Uh,
I actually
I've
think for Liverpool's first goal as well, Doggy was booked off just before for the free kick that come on, and that
uh,
didn't look like a free kick either. So I think there was a
no,
lot going wrong.
it was just a bad day for the officials.
Very bad day for the officials. I mean, we done the podcast during the week being the lads, and we had a lot of talk about Nunez and how he's doing this season. Are you surprised he wasn't playing from the start? I mean, I know he was about to come on, and I don't think he can
I
punish
think
Klopp too much. I don't think he can look too much into that because once they were down to 9 men, they were really up against it, and there was going to be
that's
very limited opportunities to catch a team on the counter attack when you're two
yeah.
players down. It was pretty much about trying to see out a point, and they almost did it, bar that free goal to end. But are you surprised that maybe where Klopp should get criticised is why did Nunes not start the game?
I was, but then Klopp said when we went into the game, Nunes had a bit of a knee injury, so he wasn't fully fit to start the game according to Klopp. So I don't really hold that against him.
Ali saying many refs wouldn't give the second yellow card and just give a warning. The ball Bonzo wanted to make a game about himself. I think, to be honest, Ali, the second yellow card, it's hard to defend. It's a crazy tackle they make when you're nowhere near the ball. I mean, it was silly. I mean, the one thing that could have come out of it, and I think this was must for the referee again, was Doggy was on a yellow card at the time. Again, I think he was harsh to get the first yellow. I thought he won the ball, but he actually gestures to the ref for the second yellow, and that's
I,
arguably he should have went as well because we've
yeah, I
seen that
seen
this
that.
season. We've seen players being booked for that. So again, that was something that the officials must, and something that Doggy needs to be
I
careful of
know
because
it seems to
that
be.
could have been a game changer.
It seems to be the rules are changing all the time for football, and they're making it more complicated than it needs to be.
Hmm. I mean, let's talk about the game now and try and talk about the football. We've sort of cleared up all them 30 minutes of ref. I don't want to be on podcast talking about refereeing decisions,
Mhm.
but there you go.
No.
You'd rather be talking about the beautiful game, but
Yep.
I mean, all that. Do you think, and the circumstances and the way they were playing with 11 and then with 10, it was definitely Liverpool's best performance of the season. And do you think they showed on Saturday that they're not far away from challenging for this title?
No, 100%. It was. I said to you at the end of the game. I was. I wasn't. I would. None of them players on that pitch like disappointed me. Maybe Jota, like, but that was just because stupidity. But um, we fought for everything, and we literally fought to the last minute. And you know what? A freaking goal happens in games. You lose games like that. But if that If that Matip goal didn't happen, we're walking out of there with a point with 9 men. Man City lost at the end of the day, and we could be talking about a completely different game. But I definitely think we'll be up there this season, and I think on the evidence Spurs showed, I think so will they.
Do you think Liverpool are better placed to challenge City than Arsenal are?
Uh, I would say it's close. I can't really tell between the two, to be honest.
Obviously, injuries will play a part, but if Liverpool can keep their best players fit, I mean, the likes of Diaz, Salah, Szoboszlai, their defense fit. You think Trent has to come back on that as well. He come on again in difficult circumstances, down to 9 men.
Yeah,
Did well enough. He couldn't really get forward because Liverpool were under so much pressure with 2 men
yeah,
down.
yeah.
Um, but if he can keep them best players fit, you think he can go push City all the way?
100%. We probably have the best squad depth that we've had in years. Like
Mm.
even I know Gakpo's injured now at the minute, and I'm hearing he's going to be out for I think it was 3 to 6 weeks. I heard something like that. So he'll be out for a good while. But our attacking options are our attacking options are frightening. Like with Nunez, Gakpo, Diaz, Salah, Szoboszlai. Like I know he's a midfielder, but he can play. He can play as part of the front three as well. And I think as we've said throughout the summer, we're one thing short for me. Well, maybe two in a proper CDM and a centre back. But other than that, I think we're well placed to be up there at the end of the season. Now.
Ali saying if injuries don't haunt us, we can challenge. I think we can even win. Mates, you have started a Liverpool cult on this podcast. You have them all believing that it's going to be Liverpool's year. I mean, not many people fancy it. Even Callum and you at the start of the season were kind of like top four, maybe. Mates was
Yeah,
adamant that they were going to challenge. And I mean, based on Saturday's evidence against a team like Spurs, who everyone's been talking up and saying they'll not be far away, top four at least. They went
yeah,
there with 9 men and they didn't give much away. They defended quite well. I mean,
yeah,
obviously Spurs come out of the game still unbeaten. Fortunate they won the game, definitely. They had a lot of luck go there. The footballing gods were looking down on Spurs, and even at the end, freak own goal goes their way. Maybe it was just that time. Maybe Spurs were due a wee bit of luck against Liverpool, but probably not as much as that in the one game. But
it's
I
the first
mean,
time he's beat us in like 7 years, is it not?
6 years, I. So I mean,
6 years.
Neville says he doesn't see Spurs as title challengers. Redknapp thought they were quite fortunate they won the game. A lot of people are saying that
I think everyone thought they were
on a
fortunate to
different
win the
day,
game.
they don't win the game. So I mean, Spurs are still being rode off. I mean, do you see them as challengers, or do you think they've still got some way to go? I mean, they didn't. I mean, I was quite worried with the squad depth and players that were coming off and the players that were
It was
coming
just
on. Do you think is that the main issue at Spurs? The like for like changes aren't there, and it would take a monumental effort to keep everyone fit. They even have a say at all.
it all comes down to, as you say, keeping. I think your key the challenging is keeping Madison fit because even like even with 11 men, he
He was
was
quiet.
he was
I thought
quiet.
he was quiet. But when
Like,
he got on the ball, I think that when he got the ball, he done quite well, but he didn't see a
yeah,
lot of it. But I
but
definitely think he was experienced on him.
it's I he picked up that injury last week against Arsenal, and I think I kind of hindered his game a bit. But with Spurs, I think it all come down to squad depth. Like he's brought on that young Argentinian boy for his debut that I've never heard of before. So like
Turns
I
out,
don't
turns out the best option was Joe Matip as well for us.
you can't really blame Matter for that. It sort of came at
It
him
was a
quick,
freak.
and he
It was a
couldn't.
freak. Martin saying, I don't see any of these Liverpool fans congratulating Spurs for their victory on
I
Saturday.
did.
Congrats to them. Wasn't their fault. I'd be getting stuck on this for all them wrong score predictions last week. I think it's very difficult, Martin, when you won the game in them circumstances, but I appreciate that. I
I
mean,
said
I've seen some Liverpool
in
accounts
my
today have
post.
been saying they can't wait for the 4th of May to get revenge. Do you think that's one thing that has been talking out of us, that there's going to be a bit of a feud there now with some fans because they feel like Spurs were, sort of done them out of a point, but it wasn't Spurs' fault, really,
It's
was it?
not Spurs' fault. No, I said like you see my post after the game. The most of my post after the game was the referee, and at the end of it, I said, "Well done, the Spurs on their victory." Like, if that happened to Liverpool, I'd still be fuming at the referees, but I'd be buzzing at the one at the same time. So,
That's it.
it,
You have to celebrate the 1-2. Kieran saying many think Bobby Smith will score tonight. I mean Bobby Smith has got some airtime. on the last couple of podcasts. I mean, he died, I think, 15 years ago, somebody told me, and his name's still been spoken about on the 12-man podcast. He thinks he might get a hat trick. I think Fulham need all the help they can get. That'll be quite an interesting game. I'm going to try and rewatch the build-up, the
Yeah,
Monday Night Football, to see what's being said. I know Frank Lampard's on tonight. That'll be quite interesting with Carragher.
I'd say,
Probably
I'd
talking about his
say,
Chelsea days, because he has said that it wasn't easy at Chelsea. There was players not playing, so
I
not
think it
playing
would be
for bad.
Rangers now.
Yankee could go to Rangers. That'll be interesting. I mean, Neil Warnock's being touted there as well. I
Oh,
mean,
sweet and gentle.
so I mean, we went into this game, Spurs Liverpool, thinking it was going to be massive. It became even bigger at 5 o'clock because Man City lost that 100% record with a shock defeat away to Wolves. I mean, did you see that result coming? I mean, I think that was one of the surprises of the season.
No, but then I like Wolves always seem to beat Man City at some point. And then I seen Pep's press conference before he said the Korean guy is very good or something, and then he ends up scoring the winner against them. So
So why? He
yeah,
seems to be scoring goals.
but it's a great win for Wolves, but it's not the games they need to be winning if that makes sense.
Mm. I mean, Man City, Pep's already complained about injuries this season, and Rodri's been
Oh
suspended. I
shit!
mean, do you think that injuries are catching up with him? I mean,
They could do.
Haaland hasn't scored in the last couple of games.
De
Alvarez has
Bruyne's
been
out
kind of
too, I
carrying
think.
them.
Isn't
Alvarez has been kind of carrying them. Grealish has been injured back on the team again. Not a massive goal threat. They've lost to like some Mahrez and Gundogan, who scored loads of goals. I mean, as this Man City squad being really tested now for the first time, do you think?
it is, but like I'm really interested to see the City Arsenal game at the weekend. I don't know if Rice is fit. Did he play at the weekend? I didn't really watch the Arsenal game.
I
So I
think Rice
don't
will be
know.
okay. I think Rice they'll have
Uh,
them boys.
so
They'll have them
I
boys
think
round to go.
that could be a big advantage for Arsenal. What team do you
Graham's
support?
letting me
I'm
know
from
what team do I support. I'm actually a Spurs fan, Graham. Owen here's a Liverpool
I'm a
fan.
Liverpool
He's
fan.
like yourself. He is absolutely fuming. Most of the listeners tonight are Liverpool fans, and they aren't happy as well. Haven't seen you before on the channel, so thanks for your comment. And make sure you subscribe. I hope you enjoy. But look, I mean, one big takeaway I've seen in the last few games with Man City is they are struggling a wee bit without Rodri. I mean, I seen a stat
Yeah,
today: 5 defeats in 15 games without Rodri, compared to five. I think it's 5 defeats in 75 with him. So
yeah.
there is evidence there to suggest that Rodri is critical to this Man City team,
Oh,
even maybe more important than De Bruyne is. So I mean, if Rodri was
Rodri's
to
a
pick up an
wonder.
injury, sorry,
Rodri's a wonderful footballer. Like, he's probably the
very
best in
good.
his position.
If something was to happen, they're going to miss him next week against Arsenal. That's for sure. Because I mean, Wolves are a
He's
decent side,
suspended
but
the game after too, isn't he?
no, I think the cup game was his
He's,
first. Wolves
no,
second, Arsenal third. He'll be back
um,
after the national break. But I mean, if something was to happen to him for an extended period of time, does that blow the title race back on him?
100%. I think the title race, even though we lost the weekend, like I think without loss to Wolves, I think the title race is bang
Two
open
points, 2 points separate in the top four.
because I think your Spurs are a point ahead of us, and then we're two behind
Arsenal
City.
are a point ahead, and then these are a point by. So these are two behind City and a point behind Spurs Arsenal. So there's 2 points
Yeah.
between
So
Spurs, Liverpool, and teams above them.
so I think if Man City had a won that game, it would have been harder to accept the defeat, if that makes sense, even in the
I mean,
circumstances.
I don't know if you've seen this scenario, but the Spurs really beat Luton on Saturday, and
Or they'd
Arsenal
be
and Man
top of the
City
league.
were to
Yeah.
draw. Spurs would go into the international break, top of the league. I think that would be a big shock. No one would have fought after 8 games. They'd be up there.
No.
But I mean, that is a big game on Sunday. I mean, we've also got Brighton Liverpool. We'll talk about that a wee bit towards the end as well. But I mean, how do you see that? I mean, everyone said last week that Arsenal game was going to be huge. Arsenal Man City was going to be huge for Arsenal. But a week later, Arsenal have gone away to Bournemouth, won 4-0. Man City have had a shock defeat. The gap's down to 1 point between them two, and Arsenal are at home on Sunday. So, I mean, the Arsenal going to this game as favourites now. With Man City having lost back-to-back games
Mm.
against Newcastle in the Cup and Wolves away.
Can you ever be favourites against Man City though in any circumstances? It's they're that good. Like Pep will not let them lose 3 games in a row. Like I'm convinced. I know they're playing midweek against Leipzig, I think it is, but I it will be a tough game. But I still fancy City.
Do Graham is saying that he doesn't blame Spurs or their fans but he thinks there is a case for replaying the game. I know you won't like that. I think the problem with that, Graham, is that there's been mistakes and errors before. If you look over the last season and a half, there's been numerous ones where they've had to apologise and they didn't replay the end game. So the problem you're going to have there is all them teams are going to put their hand up and say,
Again,
"Well, we didn't replay our game." So you're going to.
where do
I
you,
think there has
where
to
do
be
you,
an out.
and
Sorry, go ahead.
again, where do you replay the game? Because there's so many games already. Like,
Liverpool are in Europe, exactly. So, but the other problem is, Wolves will say, "Well, why have we not got why have our game against Old Trafford? We would have had a penalty to equalise." But I mean, Brentford last year got that draw away at Arsenal, where it was Dave says again somewhere it was an offside and it was a factual decision they got wrong. That game wasn't replayed.
Arsenal could
That cost Arsenal 2 points. So I
have.
mean, I think that'll be the issue. There'll be a lot of backlash from our clubs.
It'll be interesting to see
Maybe
what comes out of it, though.
maybe from next season there may be something like that. But as you said, it's just the calendar. If there was loads of mistakes and he just says, "Well, will you play them? How many games will be replayed?" I mean, the problem we've got is first and foremost, surely we have to get the referees in order, get the VAR in order, and then we'll not have these debates where games are needed.
If the referees were just competent at their jobs, we wouldn't be having these problems.
Let's talk about the other half of Manchester. I know you'll be in. This might cheer you up a wee bit. United were beaten at home again by Crystal Palace just after beating them in the cup by 3-0. Everyone expected Man United to won this game. They didn't.
I said Palace to win.
Did you? Well, you'd be biased though, wouldn't you? So United were beat 1-0 at home, and that is now 4 defeats in 7 Premier League games. They've got Galatasaray and Brentford at home this week before the international break. I mean, are them games must win now? More so the Brentford game. I think Galatasaray they'll probably win that, but even if they don't, it's Champions League. Whereas this Brentford game, if they don't beat Brentford, the top 4 could be as good as over if results go there. I mean, I don't see them. I think they're 7 points behind Liverpool in 4th. If that was if all the teams above them were obviously Arsenal playing Man City, but if Spurs won and Liverpool won, all of a sudden there's a huge gap there.
Even if Brighton won against us, like it's still.
Yeah. So I mean, these must-win games this week. If he doesn't get results this week, he goes under that international break with a lot of pressure on. And now I don't think he would be sacked, but I think if things weren't to improve by the end, there's one more international break in the middle of November. It would be under massive pressure, wouldn't he?
Oh, 100%. We said this last week. We said after they lost to Bayern Munich, it was a must-win against Burnley. And as I said to you last time I was on here, they didn't impress me against Burnley.
None of their games, they haven't been convincing at all, and that's the biggest worry, isn't it?
And then they're lucky they have as much points as they do, as you say. The Wolves, they probably should have lost to Wolves. If Wolves could finish, then they would have lost. They should have lost to Forest because Forest were 3-0 up. And then the games that they have lost, they've deserved to lose.
Worst start to the Premier League season, I think, of 34 years.
Now. It's shocking, and it's not all his fault because of the circumstances with Anthony and Greenwood and injuries. But
if you look at it from a United point, I've tried to think about this from a United fan's point of view. If you're watching these games and looking at these games, there's very little evidence to say anything's going to get any better anytime soon. They don't look like they're going to score loads of goals. They don't look like they're playing together as a unit. There's no identity. I don't really know. The goalkeeper's not worked out. He seems to be very good with his feet, but not very good with his hands. And you need to be a good goal. You need to be good with your hands first and foremost.
Yeah.
Has his recruitment been good enough? He's brought on Anthony, who he's worked with. Onana, he's definitely picking the players. We've seen with our clubs where you can say there's issues with directors of football, but it looks to me that United are, because there's all players he's worked with. A lot of these players haven't worked out.
No, it's obviously it's early to judge the of Onana, but on this evidence, they got rid of De Gea because he couldn't play with the ball at his feet, but he won the Golden Glove last season with 17 clean sheets, and since he's been away, their defense has just went to pot. And then I know Mason Mount's only coming back to fitness, but I haven't been impressed with the games that he has played in. And I think Casemiro's been off the boil this season. Rashford just doesn't look interested. Obviously, Anthony's been out of the side because of personal reasons. So I don't know what's I
We're
don't know what's
hearing that
going on.
there's a possible divide in the dressing room. Now we're hearing that most of the players are backing him, but there is
There
certain
always is.
elements of the
There
dressing
always
room
seems to be a divide with United in the dressing room.
again, and I think some of that is out of his control from the top. But I mean, it's usually when these divides happen, and then when you're not getting results, the divide becomes bigger and more start going against you. That's kind of how things work in football. I mean, as the writing on the wall for him, do you expect him to see out this season? I mean, do you expect things to get better? Because I mean, we've heard that they still do back him, but I mean, results will always dictate how many more defeats at home will Old Trafford fans take. You know, losing to Brighton at home, we were well beat. Losing to Palace at home, you can't. You're struggling. You know, there's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. Palace are a team struggling, and they go to Old Trafford and won. Um, I mean, even in the form United run, no one fancied Palace, and that tells you where Palace are at,
Mm.
and they go there and
But
won. So, I mean, how do you see this playing out?
it's difficult to say because if they go and beat Galatasaray and go and beat Brentford, then it'll be all rosy again going into the international break. But if they go and lose those, say they beat Galatasaray and lose to Brentford, I just even if they do beat Galatasaray, if they lose to Brentford, it could be in serious trouble. And obviously, a lot of United fans are backing him because of what he done last season. But a lot of what he done last season was because Liverpool weren't on it, Spurs weren't on it, Chelsea weren't on it. They're still not on it, but a lot of teams are getting better, and United are just sort of they're they're not getting better, and they're stagnating, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very, very entertaining weekend of football. Obviously, Liverpool fans, we won't be happy with how things went, but I mean, some big games, some interesting games. I mean, weekend started off with everyone fancied Brighton to go to Villa and won well, and it ended up Villa beat them 6-1. Ollie Watkins scores a hat trick. I mean, I suppose it's a rhetorical question, but that did that result shock you in a way? You know, Brighton were
Oh,
sort of seen
no,
as the favourites going into it, and
it
Villa blew
definitely
them
shocked me.
away.
I was well, it definitely shocked me that Brighton lost by such a big margin, but Villa and Brighton, it's an exciting game on paper, and I obviously watched the game, and Villa were just fantastic from start to finish. But Brighton, as much as Brighton play good football and they're a good side to watch, they have these kind of results on them. They got hammered by Everton at the end of last season. They got hammered by West Ham and obviously Villa now. So they have these results on them, and I'm hoping for my sake anyway at the weekend they don't decide they don't
Usually,
decide
when a
that.
team takes a heavy beating, they tend to respond, don't they? You know, is that a
But then
worry going to be
again,
next week? Is that a worry going to be next week that you know they're a wounded animal and they'll be out to prove a point?
it is. But then
Liverpool are
Liverpool are
probably a
sort
wounded animal as
Liverpool
well.
are sort of a wounded animal and out to prove a point. So I I would be I'm more confident going into the Brighton game now than I was a week ago, just because of the circumstances Liverpool found themselves in.
Yeah,
Because you seen after the game, well, I don't know if you seen it, but Nunez was going over to Liverpool fans, beating his chest, saying, "Come on, we are Liverpool and all this here." So there, as I was saying at the top of the show, there's a like a siege mentality at Liverpool at the minute.
yeah. Arsenal went to Bournemouth and won 4-0. Obviously, there was a bit of pressure on that game going on the
Yeah,
next week, and then you also see they probably didn't expect Man City to drop points, so it was quite a good weekend for Man City with Liverpool losing and Man City losing. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Arsenal will be looking at Liverpool and Man City as their two main rivals, not Spurs.
yeah.
So it's been a great weekend for them. What do you think of that game next week? You know, it's a bumper Super Sunday, Brighton, Liverpool, and Arsenal, Man City. Two
What I
great
like
games.
most, what I like about them two games is they're actually on TV and one of them's not on TV. You know what I mean? Because the last few Super Sundays have been strange.
Yeah, I mean, the how
But
do you feel?
I'm
How do you
looking
think them
forward
games will go next week? Brighton, Liverpool, and then Arsenal,
to it.
City.
As I said, I think City will beat Arsenal just because Pep won't have them losing back to back games. Know what I mean? And I think even though Brighton were battered on Saturday, I do think Liverpool will come out and just want to prove a point and say we may have lost on Saturday to Spurs, but we're here to stay. We're not going anywhere.
Hmm. What happens if the referee has a bad game book?
Then I'm watching cricket. No,
I mean,
it'll be
you go ahead. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
guarantee, you know, I guarantee, and Sunday the referee will be Paul Tierney. Guarantee.
Well, you'll not have to wait till Sunday to find out. They will be released on a Tuesday. They always are released on a Tuesday morning, so
Yeah, no,
you'll have the information around
I
10 o'clock
tomorrow.
tomorrow. To see who that is. We spoke
If it's
about
Simon Hooper, I'll lose me.
United Palace. Everton, Luton. I mean, again, Everton had
That
turned the
surprised
corner. We
me.
were told, and Luton couldn't win a game for Toffee, and then they go to the
Yeah, for
Toffees,
Duffy, I like
ironically, and beat them
that.
and they beat them 2-1. I was practicing that one. No, it just popped into my head there now. They beat Luton. Luton beat Everton by 2-1. I mean, huge result for Luton. That'll give them
Oh,
some newfound belief, surely, wouldn't it? I mean, they've got
oh,
Burnley tomorrow
oh,
night. All of a sudden, they can win that at home, and that gives them their no. That's a game in hand for them. That'll level up the table tomorrow night. Everyone will have played 7 games after Fulham, Chelsea tonight, and Luton, Burnley. And I mean, all of a sudden, things could look a lot better. I mean, it's a huge
yeah,
game for Burnley, that too, because they would be 6 points behind Luton if they were to lose that game. And
yeah.
Burnley don't look like they can win too many games either. So
No.
Luton, all of a sudden, they're only a chance.
I was I've been on this podcast many times saying I didn't think Luton would win a game this season, so I was proven wrong, and happily it was against Everton because I just every time Everton lose, I get a chuckle out of it, no matter what the circumstances are. So I am happy for Luton because the performances have deserved a positive result for me. I think they've played well in some games, but for Everton, like they go away, they or were they at home last week to Brentford? I can't mind,
Away to
but
Brentford.
they go away to Brentford, which is a tough place to go, like and win convincingly, and then lose to a team that everyone thinks are going to be the whipping boys. It's just one step forward and two steps back for Everton, and Sean Dyche is still in trouble because they have it's a big game for them too at the weekend. They have Bournemouth at home, and if they lose that, they're going on the international break, and then obviously it's the Merseyside derby at Anfield. After
It's a worry for them because their home forms kept them up in the last 2 seasons. You haven't got many results away from home. I
they've
mean,
lost four
you
in a
look at
row. Haven't
they've lost 4 in a row at home, and you look at three. Obviously, one was Arsenal, but three was Wolves, Fulham, and Luton, teams they're going to have to beat to stay up. I mean, Bournemouth's another big one at the weekend. I mean, if they lose that game at home, they're going to have a very difficult second half of the season because they're going to be going away to these teams where
yeah.
they'll have the advantage. So, I mean, it was how damaging is that defeat when you think they've turned a corner, they lose. As you said, everyone says the whooping boys. Everyone has Luton penciled on for bottom. And I mean, the pressure's back on Sean Dyche going on the weekend.
Yeah, it's I like, but Everton always find a way to squeak past relegation, like they do. But
I just think that was a big game for them because Burnley,
it's
Sheffield
like
United
a
have been struggling. Luton, they could have been 6 points ahead of all three of them teams, and
yeah.
you've got a bit of breathing space. I know 6 points doesn't seem like a lot, but it is a lot when you're playing teams
When
don't
you're
win
down
very
at the
often.
bottom, it is.
And you're thinking if you get another couple of ones, all of a sudden they could be 12 points ahead,
It,
and you're nearly
it's a
enough safe.
psychological. It's not even the result itself. It could be a psychological blow for the Everton players. Going right, we've lost to the quote unquote worst team in the league here, so it'll knock their confidence for sure. And Bournemouth, although Bournemouth got a beaten off Arsenal, Bournemouth will be going into that game thinking they can get a result, and they need a result too because they haven't won a game.
West Ham beat Sheffield United by 2-0 back. They won on ways for West Ham. It's been a largely positive start to the season for them. They're sitting seventh in the league on
Either
13 points, just 3 points behind Liverpool in fourth. So, I mean, West Ham fans will be pretty happy. I mean, all that sort of noise about David Moyes is going away.
again at the start of the season, I thought when they lost Declan Rice, they ran for a tough season, but they've seen they replace him well with Alvarez from Ajax. And talking about clubs in crisis, I know he's not. I know it's not in the Premier League, but Ajax are having a season, aren't they?
Oh, their fans are losing their head. So
yeah,
I mean,
but
Sheffield. I mean, it looks really
I
bleak for them.
know. I would say their manager will be gone by next weekend if I would say he's gone before international break.
who did they play? You don't know who they play on Saturday, no?
No, I can
I'll find out for
quickly.
you now. 1 second. There's just one more here. Um, away they Fulham, so that's going to be huge. I think you're right about that. You've said fair play. You've held your hands up a few times and says I got that wrong, but I think you're right about that. There's already speculation about him and Chris Wilder coming back in. He's patched up his relationship with the owner. I think if they lose that game, it's a dreaded international
I'm,
break
su-
for a manager.
I'm
I think they'll
surprised
make
he
a
wasn't
change.
gone. I'm surprised he wasn't gone after the Newcastle game. To be honest,
Mm. I mean, another big result was Newcastle beating Burnley. They turned the corner as well, and all of a
yeah,
sudden they're back in for the European picture. And they're getting that home form back, which was so strong. last season. Do you
Must have
just
given
expect
them confidence too, beating Man City in the cup.
they've obviously got PSG coming up as well this week. I mean,
I
I think
can't
the
wait to
feel good
watch that.
factors. Do you think the feel good factors back in Newcastle again?
All the noise about Eddie Howe has sort of gone away, and not only have they won their last four, they've kept clean sheets on all of them. But I do think they'll struggle against PSG though.
Mm. And then on Sunday, as you say, we had that big controversial game between Forest and Brentford. Brentford could have a couple of penalties.
Yeah,
I mean, the second one for me, the one on the goalkeeper on Bussa,
yeah.
was clear as day. I mean, how has that not been given?
I know it's Paul Tierney again. He was the referee in that game. I think
Mm.
But all jokes aside, it doesn't seem to matter who the referee is. They're just not good enough. It's simple as that. As we said at the top of the show, the referees in England are not good enough. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but they need foreign referees. Like they're all right to go out to Saudi Arabia and go to do Champions League games. So why can't the referees from Spain do a game in the Premier League? And like, I don't see the problem with it.
Yeah, it's definitely one suggestion I've seen talked about having referees that aren't affiliated. These referees, because you says that even if you watch them VAR audios, they're calling each other Brooksy, and
Yeah,
it's all friends,
uh,
all talking to each other. So as you said, there is that sort of they've got a duty of sort of loyalty to their friends, haven't they? So I
yeah.
mean, it's got to be sorted out moving forward. I'm looking forward to catching up Monday Night Football now when we come off. I mean, Fulham Chelsea's a huge game tonight. I mean, how do you see that going? Chelsea are sitting 15th in the league. I mean, obviously the Luton Burnley game's playing tomorrow night, but I think if Luton won or Burnley won, that gap to the bottom, they're only a couple of points off the bottom three.
Yeah,
So I
it's
mean,
mad.
Pochettino needs some sort of result tonight and against
Uh,
Burnley next week.
we were just talking about this before we came on air because Chelsea's fixtures after the international break are horrible. So they need to get results against Fulham tonight and Burnley. As for the game itself, I think you said to me Chelsea will 1-0.
I think Chelsea and
Uh,
like it 1-0.
I I I find it so tough to predict Chelsea games now because they're
I wouldn't
just
say that with much confidence. That's just
no.
what I think may happen. But
I
I
think
mean, if I had a gun to my head, I'd be sweating. I wouldn't be confident.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Jackson's suspended, isn't he? So they don't have a striker.
That's going to be interesting. Team needs to be out now any second.
Mm.
Owen, I mean, European. Before I finish off, we just look on some of these European sort of games this week. I mean, Champions League big games coming up. I think Newcastle and PSG is probably the big one on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. I mean, what kind of atmosphere you expect in St James's Park for that?
Well, it'll be electric. And is it Tuesday night or Wednesday night they're playing?
Wednesday night, United have a
Uh,
big game tomorrow night against Galatasaray.
uh, it'll be St James. As a neutral fan, like I would love to be there just to soak in that atmosphere because PSG fans travel in their numbers too. Like so, it'll be a special night for Newcastle fans. But I think PSG, as I said, will be too much for them.
Yeah, I mean Celtic are playing Lazio as well. I'm going to bring them up because maybe a few Celtic fans watching. I mean, big game against Lazio. We were well beaten by Feyenoord. Obviously, some decisions didn't go their way, and ended up down to 9 men, a bit like yourselves at the weekend.
The
Huge game at
goalkeeper.
home. Do you expect Celtic? They make a fuss a lot, against Lazio at home. Lazio haven't been, setting the word delight. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
huge game. If they've any chances getting out of that group, it's a must-win, isn't it?
It is a must win, but I can't see Celtic getting anything. I think Lazio will have too much for them. They have too much quality. They have Immobile in the attacking areas, and they have Luis Alberto. And God, in their last game, their goalkeeper bloody scored. So you never know what. But I can't see Celtic getting much out of the group because I think the other team in that group is Atletico Madrid, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nah, I
They
can't
will play.
see.
I think they'll play Atletico back to back after this.
So if Celtic are to get out of the group, they have to get something, in my opinion, tomorrow night. But I just can't see it.
And I mean, well, whilst we're here, we'll talk about it. Michael Beale's sacked by Rangers. I mean, we've seen some
Yeah.
links. The Frank Lampard, Neil Warnock. There's another name in the hat too. Used to play for Rangers. He's actually a similar. No, he's went down the same route as Ken Angie. Managed Melbourne. He's managing Yokohama in Japan now. I think they're maybe looking at that as a potential way. He played for Rangers. Played 20 games for him. I had his name on my head, but it's gone now.
Uh,
You know, how do you see getting on the Rangers? I mean, they're already 7 points behind Celtic in the Champions League.
that
Sorry,
did,
in the Scottish League, it's going to be very
uh,
difficult to turn that around.
I'm not going to sit here and say I'll watch a lot of Celtic or Rangers, but I obviously see stuff on Sky Sports News, and from the highlights that I have seen, Rangers just haven't been at it this season. Although they did beat Betis in the Europa League, didn't they?
Yeah, it'd be best. I mean,
Which,
I would love to
which is
see Neil Warnock go in there just for a bit of fun. Like I think it would be brilliant for Scottish football if Neil Warnock went on there.
but sure, he retires every 2 minutes, so you never know with him. But it Celtic are just too strong in that league, and with Rodgers being back there, like it seems to be all patched up there. So I can't see anything but Celtic retaining the league this season.
And then if you like your Thursday night football, Liverpool are playing Union Saint Jose or they're a
Uh,
Belgian team, I believe.
McAllister's brother plays for them.
So there's a bit of a romantic story there.
Aye, hopefully we have a good
What
referee.
kind of team do you expect them to play? At home, you'd expect them to maybe not have to go as strong.
I would expect I would expect Jones to play and Jota to play because they're not going to play at the weekend.
And
And then obviously I don't think Nunez will play because we'll need him at the weekend because Gakpo's injured. So I would see the
so
likes
Wack will
of
come on.
I would see the likes of like Kelleher and
So Wack,
Simicast. Nah.
so
So
Wack's look decent, so he'd be interesting. Owen, thanks very much for coming on. Action packed show.
no
I'm sure
bother.
you'll enjoy them. We'll
Anything.
get caught up in the Monday Night Football. But always a
I will
pleasure
do.
having you on. You spoke really well. I know you've been angry, but you spoke really, really well as well. I think a lot of Liverpool
Cheers,
fans
lad.
have enjoyed hearing you. And let's just hope moving forward these decisions they aren't repeated. We want to see,
We'll,
we want to be
we'll
on
be
here
back
talking
on.
more about the football, don't we?
100%. See if we were on here talking about say if Spurs beat Liverpool 3-2, happy days. Blah, blah, blah. Like that would have been grand. But the fact that the game was ruined by referees it's just frustrating. But here's hoping next time on we're talking about football and not refereeing decisions.
Onwards and upwards. Owen, thanks very much again. Good man.
No bother.